Audrey was pushed to a dead end by Brad's industry blacklist. On the verge of total ruin, Logan arrived at the Hollywood red carpet via a heavy-duty helicopter, dropping a $100 billion acquisition contract in front of a global audience. He crushed the corporate giants who had bullied her under his feet, leading Audrey to a shocking and triumphant comeback. Welcome to Windfall, Lord. An exciting story is about to begin. God is my witness. If someone had told me 3 days ago that I would forcibly kiss Hollywood's hottest and most aloof rising star in front of over 10 million live viewers across America, I would have suggested they check themselves into a neurology clinic. But now, this utterly insane event is actually happening to me. Los Angeles. Walk of Fame. Tonight is the red carpet for the annual Golden Globe Awards. The air is thick with the scent of expensive perfume and feverish hormones, while the camera flashes interweave into a brilliance bright enough to blind. I, Logan Wells, a broke USC international student who transmigrated to this parallel universe just 3 days ago, am currently wearing a pilled, cheap gray hoodie with a work badge hanging around my neck. As a temporary cable puller earning a mere $15 an hour, I'm being squeezed to the very edge of the media barricade. My best friend Matt Davis was gripping a thick cable tightly while shouting at me, "Logan, stop spacing out. Man, get those damn wires straightened out. Look, it's Audrey. My God, she's so beautiful she doesn't even look human." I looked up, following the direction of Matt's trembling finger. At the end of the red carpet, a black stretch Lincoln came to a slow halt. The moment the door opened, the thousands of journalists in attendance erupted like sharks sensing blood. The deafening screams and the sound of shutters clicking were enough to pierce my eardrums. Audrey Sinclair stepped out of the car. She is the most beautiful belle of our USC campus. And now, a skyrocketing Hollywood ice queen. Tonight, she is draped in a deep blue haute couture starry sky gown that outlines a curve so perfect it takes one's breath away. Her dazzling blonde hair cascades like a waterfall over her porcelain shoulders, her exquisite features wearing her signature icy expression that keeps everyone at a distance. To be honest, she is indeed so beautiful that it's impossible to look away. But at this moment, I don't even have the mind to admire a beauty, because a cold, mechanical voice is echoing frantically inside my head. God is Cashback System bound. Current unique target, Audrey Sinclair. System rules. Every cent the host spends on the target will result in a 100-fold cash rebate. If you want to become filthy rich, please spend money on the goddess to your heart's content. Does it sound like a pie falling from the sky? Getting a 100-fold cashback just by spending money. It's practically every man's ultimate dream. But before I could even pocket a single cent, this damn system issued a lethal, soul-crushing ultimatum that could lead to my total social death. System warning. Novice activation task initiated. The host must forcibly kiss the target, Audrey Sinclair, within 3 minutes in front of a live global broadcast with a current viewership of 10 million. The duration must not be less than 3 seconds. Task reward. The system will be formally activated, and a $1 million novice startup fund will be disbursed. Task failure penalty. The host's existence will be erased. Physical destruction will be executed immediately. Cold sweat instantly drenched my back. Obliterated? You've got to be kidding me. I only traveled to this world 3 days ago. I haven't even had enough Hollywood burgers yet. And now I'm facing physical destruction? I swallowed hard, my eyes fixed on the center of the red carpet. Audrey was walking gracefully toward us, and by her side was a guy who made my fists itch just by looking at him, Brad Horton. Brad was your quintessential Los Angeles rich kid, his family controlling several top media companies. He was clinging to Audrey like a piece of wet parchment, sporting a smile he thought was handsome but was actually incredibly greasy. He kept reaching out, trying to wrap an arm around Audrey's waist, only to be skillfully and coldly dodged by her every time. Countdown. 60 seconds. The system's emotionless voice rang in my head like a death knell. Damn it. No time to hesitate. I'm dead either way. And I'd rather be drowned by the spit of every netizen in America than be directly obliterated by the system. Logan? Where are you going? Are you insane? Matt watched me suddenly drop the cable and charge toward the police line like an out-of-control rhino, his voice cracking in terror. Sorry, brother. I'm going to save my life. I let out a roar and flipped the metal barricade in front of me. 2 burly black security guards reached out to grab me, but I executed an incredibly smooth slide right under their arms, charging straight onto the glory-covered red carpet. Hey, you in the gray, stop right there. Security. We have a fanatic fan breaking through the perimeter. The surroundings erupted instantly. Over 10 million viewers across America watching the live broadcast likely saw, at that very moment, a black-haired Asian youth in a tattered hoodie charging toward their ice goddess at the speed of a 100-meter sprint. Countdown. 10 seconds. 10 steps. 5 steps. Brad was the first to react. His expression shifted instantly as he stepped in front of Audrey, spreading his arms and roaring at me. You damn piece of trash. Get away from Audrey. Get the hell out of my way. I didn't slow down at all. Using the momentum of my sprint, I slammed my shoulder hard into Brad's custom-made suit, which was worth tens of thousands of dollars. The exhausted rich kid let out a pathetic shriek and went flying like a bowling pin, headfirst into a nearby flowerbed. The entire venue fell into a deathly silence. Every shutter click ceased simultaneously at that exact second. Audrey's eyes, like ice blue gems, widened slightly, flashing with a hint of bewilderment. Just as she was about to step back, I had already lunged in front of her. "Forgive me, goddess," I whispered rapidly in a low voice. In the next second, without a moment's hesitation, I reached out with both hands and cupped her flawlessly beautiful face. Under the witness of thousands of journalists in the venue and over 10 million live viewers across America, I lowered my head and pressed my lips firmly against her soft, red lips coated in expensive lip glaze. Time seemed to freeze completely at this moment. Audrey froze. She even forgot to struggle, her eyes wide as she stared fixedly at me from inches away. I could smell the faint scent of cedarwood perfume on her, and I could feel the incredible softness and slight trembling of her lips. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. My God! I don't know which reporter let out that high-pitched scream, but in the next instant, the entire red carpet went absolutely ballistic. The camera flashes were like a dense cluster of supernova explosions. The white light was so intense it nearly blinded me. Enraged security guards surged toward me like a tidal wave, while Brad, who had been sent flying into a flowerbed, let out a pig-slaughtering roar. "I'm going to kill him! I'm going to butcher that piece of trash!" I let go of Audrey and quickly took 2 steps back. Audrey's cheeks flushed a deep crimson right before my eyes, her icy, aloof mask shattering completely. She covered her lips, her eyes filled with shock, humiliation, and utter disbelief. Right then, the most wonderful sound in the world echoed in my mind. Ding! The novice activation task has been completed. The Goddess Cashback System is officially activated. Congratulations to the host for receiving $1 million in novice startup funds. The funds have been transferred to your Bank of America account through an absolutely secure channel. The source of funds is legal and compliant. Please use them with peace of mind. Immediately following that, the second-hand phone in my pocket let out a buzz vibration. Ignoring the 4 burly security guards lunging toward me, I calmly pulled out my phone. A bank SMS notification was glaring on the screen. Your account ending in digits has just been credited with $1 million. Current available balance: $1,000,035. Staring at that long string of zeros on the screen, I couldn't help but burst into a fit of wild, unrestrained laughter right there in the middle of the red carpet, in front of tens of millions of viewers across America. The entire internet likely saw me as a deranged, ultimate simp who was willing to go to prison just for a touch of his goddess. Brad was probably already mentally devising 10,000 ways to kill me. Even Audrey looked at me as if she were staring at an irredeemable madman. But they had no idea that this frantic kiss was merely the beginning of me using cold, hard cash to turn Hollywood upside down. Pin him down! Someone pin this lunatic down! 4 security guards, each weighing over 200 pounds, pinned me firmly to the red carpet like a human pyramid. My face was forced against the coarse red fabric, but I couldn't suppress the frantic, widening grin tugging at the corners of my mouth. $1 million! Just 5 minutes ago, I was calculating ramen portions with Matt to cover next month's $600 rent. And now, I was a rich man with a 7-figure bank balance. Logan, have you lost your goddamn mind? Matt was hopping frantically outside the police line, looking like a groundhog that had just had its tail stepped on. Brad, whom I had tackled into the flowerbed, crawled out covered in weeds and dirt. His expensive Tom Ford suit now looked like a floor rag, and his once meticulously slicked back hair was falling apart, making him look exactly like a homeless man who had just finished begging for a meal. "You damn yellow monkey! You bottom-feeding cockroach!" Brad rushed over in a fit of rage, raising his custom leather shoes as if to kick me right in the face. "Mr. Horton, please mind your status. There are cameras everywhere." A cold, slightly trembling voice interrupted Brad's violence. It was Audrey. She had recovered from her state of extreme shock, although a trace of lingering, indignant blush still touched the corners of her eyes and her chest was heaving heavily. She quickly donned her mask of the icy socialite once more. She shot a cold look at Brad, then swept a glance over me with an incredibly complex expression. "Hand this man over to the LAPD. I don't want tonight's red carpet completely ruined by a pointless farce," Audrey said, taking a deep breath as she gave instructions to the security captain beside her. She then walked into the Dolby Theater without looking back. Brad glared at me viciously, hissing through gritted teeth. "You're dead, kid. I guarantee you won't even have the right to beg for scraps in Los Angeles." I was tossed into a Ford police cruiser like a ragdoll by 2 officers. The moment the door slammed shut, I was still staring at the string of numbers on my phone, grinning like an idiot. The entire internet must be absolutely blowing up right now. Sure enough, by the time I was released from the LAPD holding cell after 2 hours, having paid a staggering $50,000 bail, funded by my freshly acquired $1 million, which felt absolutely incredible, my name had already climbed to the #1 trending spot on Twitter across the United States. #USC's most pathetic simp force kisses ice queen #. Hashtag Audrey Sinclair attacked on red carpet. Mysterious Asian youth suspected of mental breakdown. Hashtag Brad Horton eating dirt in a flower bed. An instant classic. Hashtag I scrolled through the exploding comment section on Twitter, where countless netizens were mocking me relentlessly. Is this guy an idiot? Just for one kiss from Audrey. He's probably going to spend the rest of his life picking up soap in prison. Oh my god! He looks like a hobo scavenging for food in a dumpster. Audrey must have been totally disgusted. Am I the only one who thinks the part where young Master Horton landed in the flower bed was hilarious? Ha ha! I smiled, turned off my phone, and walked out of the police station. Matt was leaning against his beat-up used Honda Civic, smoking a cigarette. When he saw me come out, he rushed over as if he'd seen a ghost. Logan, are you okay? They didn't riddle you with bullets? Matt looked me up and down, then suddenly grabbed me by the collar. Do you have any idea what you've done? You didn't just blow that $15 an hour job we worked so hard to find. You provoked Brad Horton. His family has 100 different ways to make us disappear in Los Angeles without a trace. Relax, brother. I patted Matt on the shoulder and pulled open the passenger door of the Civic with an air of extreme arrogance. To celebrate my regained freedom, drive. We're going to Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. The cigarette in Matt's hand dropped to the ground with a soft thud. He stared at me, eyes wide. What are we going to Rodeo Drive for? To scavenge high-fashion shopping bags out of the rich people's trash cans? No. I leaned back against the seat, my eyes shimmering with excitement. To buy an apology gift for my goddess. Half an hour later, we stood at the entrance of the most luxurious Cartier flagship store on Rodeo Drive, when Matt, wearing a tattered t-shirt, and I pushed open those heavy glass doors. Several blonde sales associates in high-end uniforms cast us looks of unmistakable disdain. If not for strict professional regulations, they likely would have called security to kick us out immediately. Ignoring their glares, I walked straight toward the freestanding display case in the center of the hall. Protected by bulletproof glass, there lay the heart of the ocean. A sapphire and diamond necklace resting in silence. The centerpiece was a rare, 55-carat deep-sea sapphire, surrounded by over 200 paved diamonds. Its brilliance was enough to drive any woman to madness. Sir, please do not press your hands against the glass. It will leave fingerprints, a haughty blonde saleswoman said, approaching us with a cold, sharp warning. This necklace is priced at $10 million. It is the crown jewel of our store. Matt gasped beside me, tugging violently at my sleeve. Logan, don't be crazy. We can't even afford to breathe the air in here. Let's get out of here. Ignoring Matt, I stared at the necklace and silently called out to the system in my mind. System, if I buy this necklace and give it to Audrey, will it trigger a cashback? Ding! Host's intention detected. This necklace is valued at $10 million and perfectly matches the goddess's aura, as long as the host successfully gifts it to the target. Audrey Sinclair. The 100-fold cashback mechanism will be triggered. Estimated cashback amount: $1 billion. $1 billion. My heart rate instantly surged to 180. I could almost see a mountain of gold, built from stacks of Benjamins, waving at me. But I have less than $950,000 in my hands right now. How am I supposed to buy it? System, can I overdraw? Or can you provide some startup loans? I asked anxiously in my mind. Ding! Given that the host's current assets are insufficient to cover the cost, the system can activate a temporary black card authorization mode. The host may use the system's exclusive unlimited black card for payment, but the gift must be delivered to the target individual within 24 hours. Otherwise, the black card authorization will be revoked. All of the host's assets will be forcibly seized, and a 100,000-volt electric shock penalty will be administered. Deal. I agreed without a moment's hesitation. 100,000 volts? As long as I could get my hands on $1 billion. I'd take being struck by lightning any day. I turned around, and under the gazes of the sales assistants who looked at me as if I were an idiot, I reached into my pocket with extreme flair and pulled out a top-tier black card that the system had just materialized. It was pitch black with gold inlaid edges. I slapped it onto the polished counter with a sharp thwack. I'll take this necklace. Wrap it up. I looked directly at the haughty saleswoman and said, enunciating every word in the tone of a domineering CEO from a TV drama. Also, your packaging service is too slow. I'm in a hurry to go make my girlfriend happy. Inside the Cartier flagship store, the air seemed to have been sucked out of the room. The arrogant blonde saleswoman stared intently at the black card on the counter, which emitted a faint, dark luster. The mockery on her face froze instantly, replaced by utter shock. Having worked in Beverly Hills for 5 years, she naturally recognized this legendary, unlimited Centurion black card, issued jointly by the world's top banks. For someone holding this card, let alone buying a $10 million necklace, even purchasing half of Rodeo Drive would be a trivial matter. Sir, are you sure? The saleswoman's voice stammered, her address subconsciously trembling. This is $10 million. Swipe it, I said, short and concise. My eyes held a cold indifference that only the ultra-rich, who truly treat money like scrap paper, could possess. In reality, I was panicking inside, terrified that the system's card was a dud. If the payment didn't go through, I'd be arrested by the LAPD for fraud again in a heartbeat. Asterisk beep, transaction successful. Asterisk as the card machine spat out a long string of receipts. The atmosphere inside the entire Cartier boutique instantly reached a boiling point. The store manager rushed out of the back office like a gust of wind, personally leading several security guards in white gloves to carefully place the heart of the ocean into an exquisitely luxurious combination case. Matt stood there with his mouth agape the entire time, looking like some poor bastard who had just won the Powerball only to watch the ticket flutter down a sewer grate. He followed me out of the store mechanically, and it wasn't until we were sitting in his beat-up Civic that he suddenly let out a scream like a stuck pig. "Logan, where the hell did you rob a bank? That was a black card. An unlimited black card. You just swiped $10 million. All to buy a necklace for that ice queen who won't even give you the time of day?" Matt grabbed my shoulders and shook me frantically. "You really are the most hopeless, world-class simp in history." I tossed the heavy briefcase onto the back seat and laughingly swatted his hands away. "Just drive back to campus. Tomorrow, I'm going to show every netizen in America what real sincerity looks like." The next day, University of Southern California. I carried that briefcase containing $10 million, walking through the campus as if nothing were wrong. Students around me stopped in their tracks, pointing and whispering, occasionally breaking into exaggerated bursts of laughter. "Look, that's the perverted simp who forced a kiss on Audrey on the red carpet last night. I heard he just got out on bail. How does he still have the nerve to show his face at school? What an idiot. Brad Horton has already put the word out that he's going to make his life a living hell in this city." Ignoring the ridicule, I walked straight toward the building of the Academy of Performing Arts. According to the class schedule I had looked up on the school forum a few days ago, Audrey had an extremely important drama appreciation class this morning. When I reached the classroom door, the scene inside was one of total chaos. Brad stood at the classroom door with several of his lackeys. Today, he had changed into an even more ostentatious white suit, holding a massive bouquet of blue enchantress roses large enough to drown someone in. As he fawned over the frost-faced Audrey standing before the podium. "Audrey, I am so sorry about what happened last night. It was my fault for not protecting you and letting that low-life trash defile you," Brad said in an incredibly greasy, soulful tone. "To make it up to you, I've already utilized the Horton family's resources to officially hijack the investment for that independent film you were supposed to star in. Now, I am the lead producer of that movie. As long as you agree to have dinner with me tonight, the role of the female lead will always be yours." Hearing this, Audrey's face instantly turned deathly pale. That independent film was an opportunity she had poured immense effort into securing. It was the crucial step for her to shed the eye candy label and prove her acting skills. Brad's utterly shameless hijacking was equivalent to seizing her career by the throat. "Brad, you're despicable." Audrey gritted her teeth. Her ice blue eyes filled with rage and humiliation. "I will never give in to your blackmail. Don't be so quick to refuse." "Darling," Brad laughed arrogantly, "in Hollywood, without the Horton family's nod, you won't even get a walk-on role. I can blacklist you across the board whenever I want." "Blacklist her? Who the hell do you think you are?" I lazily pushed open the classroom door and, under the shocked gazes of the entire class, walked in carrying a briefcase. At the sight of me, Brad's laughter came to a screeching halt, his expression instantly twisting into a look of venomous rage. "You piece of trash. You actually dare to show your face in front of me again?" I ignored him entirely and walked straight up to Audrey, meeting her beautiful eyes, which were filled with wariness and bewilderment. I placed the briefcase on the podium, entered the code, and opened it with a crisp click. When the 55-carat heart of the ocean erupted into a dazzling, mesmerizing brilliance under the bright classroom lights, the entire room instantly fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's breath itched. As an apology for my rudeness last night, goddess, I looked directly at Audrey, my voice as calm as if I were discussing the day's weather. "I hope this $10 million, heart of the ocean, can somewhat appease your anger." T10. $10 million? Brad shrieked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Impossible! How could a pauper like you afford Cartier's flagship masterpiece? This must be a fake. It's just a piece of glass you bought at a street stall." I continued to ignore that barking dog, keeping my eyes fixed intently on Audrey. "System, if she accepts the necklace now, does that count as a successful gift?" I urged frantically in my mind. Ding! Target character detected to be in a state of extreme shock. The host must personally put the necklace on the target character for the gift to be considered successful and trigger the $1 billion cashback. Damn it, this system really is a high-maintenance pain in the neck. I took a deep breath, walked around the podium, and picked up the necklace. Before Audrey could react, I firmly yet extremely gently looped it around her long, fair, swan-like neck and fastened the clasp. The icy sapphire rested against her collarbone, making her skin appear as flawless as cream. Audrey shuddered as if struck by an electric shock, staring intently at me. Beyond the shock in her eyes, there was now a trace of an incredibly complex emotion. Ding! Congratulations to the host. The gift worth $10 million has been successfully presented. The 100x cashback mechanism has been triggered. $1 billion has been transferred to your name via a top-tier Swiss bank offshore account. Current available balance: $1,000,001,035. Hearing that melodious notification in my mind, I almost broke into Michael Jackson's moonwalk right there on the podium. $1 billion. I am now a super rich man worth $1 billion. I looked at Audrey's breathtakingly beautiful face, suppressed the urge to laugh maniacally, and turned to look at Brad, who was completely petrified. Blacklist her? I sneered, pointing at Brad's nose with extreme arrogance. From now on, I'm picking up the tab for everything she does. Brad's face turned a deep shade of purple, like a rooster being strangled by the neck. He pointed at the radiant sapphire necklace and roared hysterically. Fake. This is absolutely a fake. Audrey, don't let this pauper fool you. If he can actually produce $10 million, I'll eat the blackboard in this classroom. Master Brad, if you wish to consume the blackboard, I suggest you fetch some salt from the chemistry lab next door. It might make it a bit easier to swallow. A cold, stiff voice with a heavy British accent rang out from the classroom doorway. Everyone turned their heads to see a middle-aged British man walking in, dressed in a high-end charcoal custom suit and carrying a black briefcase. On his lapel, he wore a badge signifying Cartier's highest-level senior account manager. I am Arthur Pendleton, the senior manager of the Cartier flagship store in Beverly Hills. The British man walked to the podium, first bowing slightly to Audrey, then turning to look at Brad. Master Horton, I can guarantee on Cartier's century-old reputation that the heart of the ocean this gentleman just gifted to Miss Sinclair is an absolute original. Last night, this gentleman purchased it in full using a globally limited edition Centurion Black card with an unlimited credit line. An instantaneous gasp erupted in the classroom, loud enough to blow the roof off. Countless incredulous gazes hit me like spotlights. The pauper who ate discounted pizza with Matt every day and wore pilling hoodies was actually a hidden billionaire? And he held the legendary Centurion Black card. Brad looked as if he had been struck in the back of the head by a sledgehammer. He stumbled back 2 steps and collapsed into a chair in the front row, muttering incessantly, "Impossible. This is impossible." I ignored him and turned to look at Audrey instead. She remained in that stiff posture, her fingers lightly touching the cold sapphire on her neck, watching me with an extremely complex expression. There was doubt and shock in her eyes, but the one thing missing was the gratitude I had expected. "What exactly are you trying to do?" Audrey's voice was as cold as a Siberian wind. "Logan, I don't care who you really are or where your money comes from, but I am not one of those women who can be bought with cash. Take the necklace back." As she spoke, she reached up to unfasten the clasp of the necklace. "Don't move." I grabbed her hand firmly. Was she joking? This was the prop that had just earned me $1 billion. There was no way I was taking it back. System warning. The life-threatening voice rang out in my mind again. Detected target character's favorability is too low. Gift rejection imminent. If the target character removes the necklace within 3 minutes, the $1 billion cashback will be forcibly deducted, and a global social death bundle will be added. The system will play a high-definition video of the host dancing on a pole in drag on the big screens of New York's Times Square on loop. I gasped. This damn system, its method of punishment was even more vicious than physical destruction. Listen to me, Audrey. I immediately adopted an expression of profound affection, bordering on the heartbroken, and stared intently into her eyes. This isn't just about the money. I know how much that indie film means to you. That idiot Brad is using his capital to oppress you and hijack your dreams. I just want you to know that as long as I'm here, no one can force you to do anything you don't want to do. I paused, deliberately raising my voice so everyone in the classroom could hear. Didn't you say the producers of that movie were bought off by Brad? Fine. I'm going to go buy that entire production crew right now. Audrey froze, her hand stopping midair as she was unfastening her necklace. Ding! Random mission triggered. Overbearing wife protection operation. Within 2 hours, the host must use cash to fully acquire the film production company that was snatched from the target character and reclaim control over the female lead role. Mission success reward. 1. God-level investment critical strike card. Guarantees a minimum of 10 times return on any investment. Mission failure penalty. All assets will be wiped out, and the host will be teleported to the center of the Sahara Desert. Accept, I roared in my mind, with the confidence of $1 billion behind me. I wasn't afraid of anything now. I let go of Audrey's hand, turned around, and strode out of the classroom. Matt squeezed through the crowd and followed behind me like a little shadow. Logan, are you really going to buy that production company? Matt lowered his voice in the hallway, his face flushed with excitement. That's a new film directed by Paul Anderson, the protege of the great director James Cameron. The entire production company is valued at least $50 million. $50 million? I let out a cold laugh. I thought it would be more expensive. Let's go to Hollywood. An hour later, Matt and I stood before an imposing office building on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. The words Nebula Pictures shimmered with a dazzling light. This was Paul Anderson's production company. When we pushed the door and walked in, the hall was in a state of total chaos. Several of Brad's representatives were sitting on the sofa with their legs crossed, holding a stack of documents with an air of arrogance. Standing opposite them was the director, Paul Anderson, a middle-aged man with a mop of messy gray hair, looking utterly aggrieved. Director Anderson, Master Brad's terms are very clear. We will invest $10 million to purchase a 70% stake in this film. There is only one condition. The female lead must be replaced by the young model designated by Master Horton. Not some Audrey Sinclair. A representative wearing gold-rimmed glasses said coldly. That's impossible. Paul waved his arms in fury. Audrey is the soul of this character. If you replace her with that model who can't even memorize her lines, this movie will be ruined. If you don't agree, the Horton family will withdraw all investment and use their connections to blacklist your film's distribution channels. This movie of yours will never see the light of day. The representative threatened with utter confidence. Paul slumped into his chair, clutching his head in agony. In this cutthroat Hollywood driven by capital, a director with nothing but talent stood no chance against a titan like the Horton family. Blacklisting distribution channels? That's quite a bold claim. I laughed loudly as I pushed open the glass doors of the conference room and strode inside. Who are you? Security. Who let these two pieces of trash in here? The representative, in gold-rimmed glasses, barked. Ignoring him, I walked straight up to Paul, pulled the system-materialized Centurion black card from my pocket, and slammed it onto the mahogany table with a sharp thwack. Director Anderson, the Horton family offered you $10 million for a 70% stake. Didn't they? I looked down at Paul, my voice booming through the conference room like a clap of thunder. I'll give you $100 million. I'm buying 100% of Nebula Pictures. You keep filming. But the female lead must be Audrey Sinclair. The entire conference room fell into a sudden, deathly silence. Paul snapped his head up, staring at me as if looking at God himself. His eyes filled with utter shock and ecstasy. Meanwhile, the representative in gold-rimmed glasses was so terrified that he slid right off the sofa and onto the floor. $100 million. To buy the entirety of Nebula Pictures. Paul Anderson's weathered face, webbed with bloodshot veins, instantly flushed a deep crimson like a bloated tomato. His lips trembled with excitement, and his hands gripped the edge of the table with a deathly force, as if fearing my casual remark was nothing more than a hallucination. Sir, are you serious? Paul stammered. Nebula Pictures. Current market valuation is $60 million at most. You want to pay $100 million. Do I look like I'm joking? I interrupted him, pointing to the Centurion black card on the table, which emitted a faint, dark luster. Swipe it. Now. I have only one condition. Within 5 minutes, get these dogs named Horton the hell out of my company. The representative wearing gold-rimmed glasses finally scrambled up from the floor. He pointed at me, shouting with a bravado that failed to mask his inner fear. You're insane. $100 million premium for the acquisition? Who do you think you are? The Horton family will never let you get away with this. Shut up, you buzzing fly. Paul stood up abruptly, fueled by a sudden burst of strength from God knows where. He grabbed the representative by the collar and dragged him toward the door like a dead dog. You bunch of vampires. Get out of my... No, get out of Mr. Logan's company right now. For the next half hour, the entire finance and legal departments of Nebula Pictures operated at a frantic, high-speed pace. When the beep of the successful card swipe echoed through the conference room, and $100 million surged into Nebula Pictures' account like a flood, Paul and his core team were so overwhelmed that they embraced each other and wept. They no longer had to be controlled by others, and they no longer had to watch their life's work be ruined by talentless young models. Ding! Congratulations to the host. The random mission, Dominant Wife Protection Operation, has been completed. Reward issued. God-level investment critical hit card, one-time consumable. Guaranteed 10x or higher return on investment upon use, has been deposited into the system inventory. Hearing the notification in my mind, I smiled with satisfaction. Trading $100 million for a God-level critical hit card, this deal was an absolute steal. Looking at the remaining $900 million plus in my account, for the first time, I felt that spending money was something so exhausting yet so exhilarating. Mr. Logan, Paul said, holding the freshly printed 100% equity transfer agreement that still smelled of ink. He handed it to me with deep respect, his eyes filled with fervent admiration. From today onward, you are the sole chairman of Nebula Pictures. We will immediately issue an announcement to all media outlets declaring Audrey Sinclair's official return as the female lead. Very well. I signed my name and turned to look at Matt, who was standing aside in a state of complete numbness. Matt, starting today, you are the COO of Nebula Pictures with an annual salary of $1 million. Keep a close eye on this movie for me. The paper coffee cup in Matt's hand hit the ground with a thud. He didn't even notice the scalding coffee splashing all over his pant leg. He just stood there, grinning like an idiot and laughing wildly. The news quickly swept through Hollywood and the USC campus like a hurricane. Mysterious Asian tycoon drops $100 million to forcefully acquire Nebula Pictures. All just to win a smile from the ice goddess. The headline shot to the top of the U.S. trending charts with the speed of a rocket. Twitter and Instagram were completely paralyzed, and every gossip outlet was frantically digging for my identity. Meanwhile, Brad Horton had become the absolute laughingstock of all of Los Angeles. In the evening, when I drove that beat-up Civic back to the USC campus gates, Audrey was already there waiting for me. She wasn't wearing any of those magnificent haute couture pieces today. Instead, she had changed into a simple white trench coat. Yet she was still so beautiful that passing students couldn't help but stare. Around her neck, the $10 million heart of the ocean still shimmered with a deep blue glow. Seeing me get out of the car, Audrey walked up to me with quick steps. Her gaze was incredibly complex, as if a fire were burning within those ice blue eyes. "Are you out of your mind, Logan?" she hissed, her voice carrying a faint, imperceptible tremor. $100 million? Just to get me into an indie film? Do you have any idea who Brad's father is? He's the biggest media mogul in California. You're practically declaring war on the entire Horton family. So what? I shrugged nonchalantly. All I know is that he shouldn't have sabotaged your dream. Audrey froze. She stared intently into my eyes, as if searching for a hint of hypocrisy or performance. But all she saw was my devotion, a look so perfect it even felt convincing to me. You. She bit her lower lip. And that untouchable Ice Queen mask finally cracked. Why are you being so good to me? Is it just because you like me? I was screaming internally. Sister, I don't want to fall in love at all. I just want to farm money. But on the surface, I put on an extremely profound expression and sighed softly. Audrey, in this cutthroat Hollywood, without the protection of capital, your talent will only become a plaything for those wealthy tycoons. I don't want to see you like that. To me, money is just a string of numbers. But you are priceless. This line was so nauseating that I wanted to vomit myself. Yet it acted like a bombshell, striking deep into Audrey's heart. Her eyes suddenly reddened, and tears began to well up. Ding! Detected a surge in the target character's favorability. Current favorability. 70. Heart-fluttering stage. Main quest update. Please help the target character win the Best Newcomer award at the Academy Awards in 1 week. And publicly humiliate Brad Horton. Quest reward. Asset cap completely unlocked. Plus a reward of $100 billion in ultimate cash flow. $100 billion? My breath itched instantly. What does $100 billion even mean? It's enough to buy half of Wall Street. Enough to walk tall across the United States of this parallel world and build a financial empire of my own. For that $100 billion. Never mind humiliating Brad. I'd even tear down the Pentagon if that's what it took. I snapped back to my senses immediately, reaching out with overbearing dominance to wrap my arm around Audrey's slender waist, pulling her firmly into my embrace. The Oscars are next week. I looked down at her, my voice laced with an unquestionable arrogance. Get ready, my goddess. I'm going to have you wear this heart of the ocean as you stand at the very pinnacle of Hollywood. Anyone who dares to stand in your way, I will crush into dust. Audrey didn't struggle. She leaned against my chest, listening to the frantic thumping of my heart, which was racing from excitement, actually. It was because of that $100 billion. The tears at the corners of her eyes finally fell. She nodded vigorously, her voice as light as a feather. Okay, I'll do as you say. Meanwhile, in a luxury villa in Beverly Hills, Brad was frantically smashing everything in sight. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to blacklist all of his businesses. Brad roared like a desperate beast. Go investigate his background immediately. I want to ruin him at the Oscars. There were only 3 days left until the Academy Awards. To prepare the most elite red carpet gown for Audrey, I took her on a sweep of every haute couture boutique in Beverly Hills. By the end of the day, I had swiped another $20 million, and $20 billion had been steadily deposited into my bank account. As night fell, we had just stepped out of a 3-star Michelin restaurant and were walking into a quiet alley to pick up the car. Suddenly, 4 or 5 burly men wearing black balaclavas and carrying baseball bats and containers of acid lunged out from the shadows. Ruin that bitch's face. Master Horton will reward us. The lead thug roared, raising a glass bottle filled with an unknown liquid and hurling it directly at Audrey's face. My heart lurched, not out of fear, but because if Audrey were disfigured, she could kiss the Best Newcomer award goodbye, and my $100 billion ultimate mission would be completely ruined. Don't you dare touch my cash cow, I roared internally. My body instinctively erupted with a surge of brute force as I pulled Audrey tightly into my arms, shielding her and using my own back to face the lethal glass bottle. With a loud crash, the glass bottle shattered against the adjacent brick wall. The acid splashed onto my jacket, instantly burning several black holes that hissed with white smoke. It was only a few inches away from burning through my spine. I could even smell the pungent odor of scorched fabric. Seeing their attempt fail, the thugs raised their baseball bats, ready to swing at my head. Just then, Matt charged around the corner with a dozen top-tier retired Blackwater bodyguards I had just hired using system funds. In no time at all, the thugs were pinned to the ground, beaten so badly they were howling for their parents. Logan, you're bleeding. Audrey broke free from my embrace, her voice sharp and trembling as she saw my arm, sliced by glass shards and seeping blood. Half an hour later, in the luxury penthouse suite of the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills. The private doctor had just finished bandaging my wound and left. Only Audrey and I remained in the vast suite. Her eyes, usually as cold as frost, were now as red as a rabbit's, brimming with tears of heartache. "Are you insane?" Audrey walked up to me, her voice choking with emotion. "You'd risk your life just to protect me? What if that bottle of acid had hit you?" "Sister, you've got it all wrong. I was just protecting my 100 billion. But of course, I couldn't say that." This was the critical moment to solidify my return on investment. I took a deep breath and forced a weak but incredibly soulful smile. "As long as I can protect you, a little injury is nothing. I told you, I'll pay for everything, including your safety." Those words were the final straw. Audrey's psychological defenses collapsed completely. She lunged into my arms, her hands gripping my neck tightly. That perfect face, the one that drove all of Hollywood mad, was pressed unreservedly against my chest. "Logan, I've lost." She looked up, a fervor burning in her eyes that made my heart race. "In this circle, everyone wants to use me. Only you were willing to love me with your life. I don't care who you really are. And I don't care how much corporate pressure we have to face. All I know is that I've completely fallen for you." Having said that, she closed her eyes and pressed her warm, red lips against mine. This wasn't like that forced touch on the red carpet. It was an incredibly passionate, reckless demand. At this peak moment of tenderness, the system's extremely mood-killing electronic voice rang out in my mind. System notification. Detected that target character Audrey Sinclair's favorability has broken through the maximum level to reach 100. Congratulations to the host for completely capturing the goddess's heart. With a warm, fragrant, and soft beauty in my arms, Hollywood's most stunning goddess was throwing herself at me. But God is my witness, there wasn't a single romantic thought in my head right now, only the countdown to that $100 billion. "Brad, you grandson of a bitch. Sharpen your neck and wait for death. That 100 billion is mine. And nobody touches it." 3 days later, Hollywood, Dolby Theater. The globally anticipated Academy Awards ceremony finally kicked off. Tonight, Audrey was as breathtaking as a nuclear blast. That haute couture gown I had flown in from Paris for $3 million, paired with the $10 million heart of the ocean, allowed her to completely outshine every other starlet on the red carpet. But our seats were atrociously arranged in the very last row of the theater, right next to the restrooms. The Horton family is truly shameless. Matt sat beside me, trembling with rage. They bribed the organizers to deliberately humiliate Audrey. I watched Brad in the front row VIP section, triumphantly flipping us the bird. A cold smirk played on my lips. Let him enjoy his moment for now. Halfway through the award ceremony, it finally reached the most exciting segment. Best Newcomer. This award was originally supposed to be a sure win for Audrey, but as the presenter opened the envelope, the atmosphere in the entire theater suddenly turned eerie. "And the winner of this year's Oscar for Best Newcomer is..." The presenter paused, his expression turning sour as he read out the name. "Emily Clark." The audience erupted in an uproar. Who was Emily Clark? She was the young model Brad had recently taken as his mistress. Someone who couldn't even memorize her lines. At that moment, the director maliciously cut the camera to Audrey, who was sitting in the very last row. On the big screen, Audrey's face turned deathly pale instantly. She bit her lip hard, her eyes shimmering with tears of humiliation. "Ha!" Brad stood up arrogantly in the VIP section, laughing loudly. "Do you see? This is what happens when you cross the Horton family. In this industry, capital is king. What can that pauper boyfriend of yours change, other than having a bit of brute strength?" Low chuckles of agreement rippled through the hall. All the corporate giants were watching this farce, waiting to see how that arrogant Asian kid would be crushed under the heel of the Horton family. Ding! Detected that the target character has suffered a major career setback. "Host, it's time to show your true skills. This is the moment I've been waiting for." I sneered inwardly. I stood up abruptly, pushed back my chair, and strode toward the stage. "Security! Stop that lunatic!" Brad roared. But in an instant, a dozen Blackwater bodyguards surged forward, pinning the security guards who tried to approach me firmly to the ground. Just like that, under the shocked gaze of thousands in the audience, I stepped onto the Oscar stage. I snatched the microphone from the presenter's hand, looked down at Brad, whose face had turned ashen, and said in a cold, sharp voice, "Capital is king? Then I'll show you what real capital looks like." I turned to the host beside me. "The organizer of this year's Oscars is the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences." "Right. Their biggest sponsors are Disney and Universal Pictures." "System. I want to buy both of those companies." Ding! Confirming host's intent. Utilizing $100 billion in cash flow to launch a hostile takeover. The entire room fell silent, and everyone looked at me as if I were a madman. Brad laughed so hard he couldn't stand up straight. "Buy Disney and Universal? Who do you think you are, God?" 30 seconds later, something unexpected happened. The phones of several Hollywood moguls sitting in the front row, including the CEOs of Disney and Universal, began ringing frantically. After answering their calls, their faces instantly turned as pale as sheets, and beads of sweat began to pour down. What? There are tens of billions in mysterious funds aggressively sweeping up our floating shares? An absolute controlling stake of 51% has already been secured? My God! Our board of directors has just been forcibly dissolved. The entire Dolby Theater erupted in chaos. Holding the microphone, I looked down at Brad from my vantage point. Master Horton, as of now, I am the largest financial backer of the Oscars. Whoever I say is the best newcomer. Is the best newcomer. That trashy young model of yours doesn't deserve this trophy. I turned to look at Audrey, who was already streaming with tears, and said in a gentle tone, "Come up, and take the glory that belongs to you." Brad completely snapped. He lunged toward the stage like a rabid dog, screaming, "Impossible! This is absolutely impossible! Security! Arrest him! Get out of my theater!" I spat out coldly. A dozen Blackwater bodyguards immediately stepped forward. In front of billions of viewers worldwide, they dragged the wailing and struggling Brad out of the Dolby Theater like a dead dog. Meanwhile, amidst thunderous applause, Audrey walked to my side and accepted the trophy that belonged to her. Ding! Ultimate mission complete. The ultimate cash flow of $100 billion has been credited to your account. At the Oscar ceremony, after 5 minutes of deathly silence, a wave of fanatical noise erupted like a tsunami. Under the spotlight, Audrey tightly gripped the golden statuette that belonged to her. She didn't deliver a speech. Instead, she turned around and, without any hesitation before billions of global viewers watching the live broadcast, stood on her tiptoes, hooked her arms around my neck, and gave me an incredibly passionate French kiss. The camera flashes merged into a sheet of white light bright enough to tear through the night sky. A few days ago, when I forced a kiss on her on the red carpet, the entire internet mocked me as a hopeless toad. But tonight, as this most dazzling ice queen of Hollywood initiated the kiss, the whole world could only grovel at my feet, looking up at this titan of capital who had descended upon the world overnight. The next morning, as the first light of dawn touched the Los Angeles sky, the landscape of Hollywood had already been completely transformed. I leaned back on the leather sofa in the penthouse suite of the Four Seasons Beverly Hills, swirling a glass of Romani Conti worth tens of thousands of dollars. Matt, dressed in a perfectly tailored Armani Prive suit, was excitedly reporting the latest battle results to me. "Logan, you're a goddamn genius!" Matt's voice was completely hoarse from sheer excitement. The $100 billion in cash flow you injected through the system last night didn't just lock down absolute controlling stakes in Disney and Universal. We simultaneously shorted Horton Media's stock on Wall Street. Just now, less than 10 minutes after the opening bell, Horton's share price plummeted 90%, triggering an immediate circuit breaker. I took a casual sip of the red wine. "What about Brad? That idiot?" Matt let out a look of pure, malicious satisfaction. "He's not just bankrupt. Since we took the liberty of packaging all the Horton family's dirt, years of tax evasion and casting couch scandals, and handing it over to the FBI, several armored police cruisers have already smashed through his front gates. Brad and his arrogant father will likely spend the rest of their lives dropping the soap in a federal maximum security prison. Every single one of his luxury mansions and supercars is being forcibly liquidated by the banks." I nodded with satisfaction. For a piece of trash who dared to try and touch my cash cow and my woman, this was exactly the fate he deserved. Just then, the familiar mechanical voice of the system echoed in my mind. But this time, there seemed to be a hint of human-like warmth in its tone. "Ding! Final system determination. The host has perfectly completed all main missions, successfully ascended to the pinnacle of global wealth and power, and thoroughly captured the heart of the sole target character. The goddess rebate system has officially lifted all binding restrictions. The obliteration penalty mechanism is permanently deactivated. The unlimited limit black card, $100 billion in cash flow, and all assets under the host's name have been fully legalized and permanently solidified as the host's private property. The system will now enter sleep standby mode. We wish you a life of pleasure and fulfillment in this parallel world." After hearing these words, I let out a long sigh of relief. The sword that had been hanging over my head, the constant threat of physical destruction or social death, had finally vanished for good. From this moment on, I was no longer a corporate drone for any system, but the true master of this world. That $100 billion was no longer cold, task-bound capital, but the bedrock of confidence that allowed me to spend as I pleased. The bedroom door of the suite was pushed open gently, and Audrey stepped out wearing an oversized white shirt, my shirt. The morning sunlight spilled over her cascading, dazzling blonde hair. She walked barefoot across the carpet, the old defensiveness and coldness in her eyes replaced by a tenderness so thick it was almost palpable. Matt, showing great tact, immediately shut his mouth. He gave me a quick wink and scurried out of the suite, thoughtfully hanging the "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door. Audrey walked over to me, naturally straddling my lap and wrapping her arms around my waist. She rested her head against my chest, listening to the steady, powerful beat of my heart. What are you thinking about? My king? She looked up, her ice blue eyes reflecting my shadow. Thinking about where we go next. I lowered my head to kiss her forehead and said with a smile, Nebula Pictures. Filming schedule for the next few years is already full. And the CEOs of Disney and Universal are lining up every day waiting for my signature. To be honest, Hollywood has become a bit boring for me. Audrey let out a soft laugh, her chest vibrating slightly. You just bought half of the entertainment industry. And now you're saying it's boring? So, where do you want to go? How about buying a private island? Or, acquiring a few top European luxury brands and firing all those sales assistants who made you roll your eyes? I said, half joking and half serious. After all, I have over $100 billion sitting in my account right now. I have to find somewhere to spend it. Audrey wasn't surprised. After witnessing that shocking, malicious takeover last night, she was fully convinced that there was nothing in this world the man before her couldn't buy. She reached out with her fair fingers, gently smoothing the creases on my collar, her gaze deep and infatuated. Logan, do you know, I used to act so desperately, wanting to make a name for myself just so I wouldn't be at the mercy of the capital in this industry. I thought I would have to spend my entire life fighting against those dirty rules. Audrey's voice was soft yet firm. But then you appeared, in the most domineering and irrational way possible. You smashed all my shackles for me. She leaned close to my ear, her warm breath brushing against my skin and sending a shiver through me. Anywhere is fine, as long as you're there. I'd be more than happy even if we just went back to the streets of USC to eat a $6 pizza. I burst into laughter, swept her up in my arms, and walked toward the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside the window lay the dazzling, panoramic splendor of all Los Angeles. The Hollywood sign shimmered in the distance under the sunlight. And beneath that land, all the giants, tycoons, and celebrities had already prostrated themselves before my capital empire. From a penniless international student who couldn't even afford rent, to forcibly kissing the Ice Queen campus belle, to splurging fortunes to buy up half the world, all of this had unfolded in less than a mere 2 weeks. Heaven is my witness. If someone had told me back then that I could become a god simply by throwing money around, I would have definitely thought they were insane. But now, feeling the warmth of Hollywood's most beautiful star in my arms and looking at the breathtakingly long string of zeros in my bank account, I can only say, with enough money, you really can do whatever you want. And that's a wrap. Folks, if this story gave you that sweet dopamine hit and was more satisfying than peeling the plastic off a brand new TV, do me a massive favor. Obliterate that like button and hit subscribe. I'm locked into content mines serving up fresh, ridiculously satisfying stories every single day. See you tomorrow for your next fix.